Hey all, here are OS Reviews. Today we're taking a quick look at the HEADWOLF FPad 1. This is a budget 8-inch Android tablet, typically goes on sale with coupon for around $120. At this price, we can't expect the flagship level performance from more premium tablets, but it still is decent. We are rocking a Android 11 OS along with a quad-core processor from Unisoc. It's the T310, and it is also a 4G LTE tablet, so you can pop in a SIM card to get cellular data and even use it to make phone calls as a massive cell phone if you desire. There's a 4,000 milliamp hour pack, which is a little bit on the smaller side, I have to say, for a tablet, but it is using a just 720p or HD resolution display. So that's one area where I do wish they would have upgraded to at least full HD, but at least it is pushing along less pixels. It should make the battery last a little bit longer. Tablet does come with built-in GPS as well, and they claim that it's up to 7 hours of usage. So you can consider this as a budget alternative to something like a iPad mini or something like a Xiaomi Mi Pad, or say the Amazon Fire 8 tablet. Now there's 64 gigs of built-in storage, which is also supported by 3 gigabytes of RAM. 4 gigs would have been admittedly maybe a little bit stronger, but it is what it is. Now we also have access to just a quick user guide and of course just the tablet itself. So taking a closer look at the FPad 1, just immediate impressions here being that overall it is pretty comfortable to grip and hold because it's coated in this layer of soft touch rubber. Solid feeling, though perhaps not quite as premium as aluminum on some of the more flagship devices. 5 megapixel lens along with an LED flash, and there's also a volume rocker power key. Finally located on the bottom here, you have the speaker. And then on the other side, you have access to the Type-C port for charging, a standard 3.5mm headphone jack, and also a quick release slot to access a micro SD and the nano SIM card slot. Turning the tablet over though, it's a little bit easier to see that this is still a budget device at the end of the day, and namely because of the slightly larger bezels that we are looking at, but not bad, still is easy enough to grip, it's just a little larger on the sides. The images make it seem a little boxy, but this is actually still a regular 16:9 aspect ratio. It's about the same size as a novel or a Kindle. Otherwise, the front-facing camera for selfies and video chats is also 5 megapixels. And what is a little strange is there is this earpiece design because, again, you can use this as a phone if you pop in your SIM card, that is. It's pretty ridiculous putting this next to your ear, though. So speakerphone or using Bluetooth, which, by the way, it's rocking Bluetooth 5.0. Using some wireless headphones will give you a more ergonomic experience if you are making calls. But this is essentially an oversized phone or a phablet. Running the show, as aforementioned, is Android 11 that thankfully is relatively clean without too much bloatware going on. So we have just the standard Google apps that come preloaded, along with access to the regular Play Store and Assistant are all baked in, and that's pretty much it. You won't find any extra apps on here. There is just a voice recorder, Google Notes, along with an FM radio if you plug in headphones you can use, and for the most part, navigating around the UI feels responsive enough. You can certainly tell that it's not going to be kind of a flagship killer, but overall, as you are gliding around, things still feel smooth enough. Definitely doesn't feel too distracting or difficult to use, which is good. The display, like I said, it is just really an HD plus resolution, and at this particular 8-inch size, it's not quite as pin sharp, but still colors look good, and viewing angles are generally quite nice as well as an IPS display, so things don't shift or turn blue as you're looking at it from different angles, thankfully. With that being said, one area that they were definitely able to cut cost is in the lamination, because this is not really a fully laminated panel. You can tell there's a little bit of a gap between the glass and the LCD underneath, so it can produce a little bit more glare if you're outdoors, although overall brightness levels are also acceptable, even if you have a little bit of sunlight hitting on it. Let's talk about some of the essentials here. For instance, if we jump into this camera, not really something I have very strict requirements for. As long as it can scan in a document and looks relatively in focus, I think it's passable, and that's pretty much what we're getting on here. Although one surprising factor would be there are a lot of settings in this custom camera app. In fact, you can find HDR controls, as well as other scene detection, QR scanner, night modes. Although I wouldn't say they make the most dramatic difference in the world, at least there is some degree of customization going on. Video is capped at 1080p, and the quality, well, overall I would say it's just so-so. And blown onto a larger display, we definitely don't have the sharpest looking results on here, but at least colors are fairly vivid, and if you are in well-lit environments, it's not that shabby. And here's an example of text that you can scan, which is still doing all right. So for things like just a quick snap here and there, it gets the job done, but really isn't going to be, again, the most extraordinary camera, but pretty average as far as tablet cameras are concerned. Alright, so lowering things there, overall I would say the quality of speakers are average. At least it's not that easy to cover it up accidentally, even though it is coming out from the base here, both of the stereo speakers. The earpiece is only for calls. With that being said, it gets plenty loud, doesn't have a ton of bass, but you can always use your own headphones or Bluetooth to further improve the experience. There's not too much stuttering going on, and there's no really lost frames, and things are actually pretty fast to load and buffer, so Wi-Fi reception at least is doing quite well. Along with even 4G LTE using T-Mobile here in the US region, I was consistently getting around 3 bars to 4 bars. So at least you don't have to wait too long for these videos to start playing back, and generally it's a fairly natural experience. Scrubbing as well as scrolling around content also feels smooth enough, maybe not quite as buttery fast as on more flagship grade processors, but certainly not bad. We can also try loading back the picture-in-picture mode, and that definitely still works. Overall, the 3 gigs of RAM, I would say it's optimized to work also all right, a little better than I was expecting, to be honest. So you can open up, I would say, around 3 or 4 apps, and things can still feel pretty nice when it comes to jumping back and forth, but anything more than that, you would want to close out of the previous apps to get you the fastest experience going forwards. Now, it does use standard Gboard, so if we try loading up something like The Verge, we can try and see what the loading speeds and experience is like. This is a fairly complex page, and we are loading back the desktop version of the site, and as you can see, they're surprisingly pretty fast for loading back web pages. Not all the elements are fully loaded just yet, so this will take maybe a split second longer, but overall, in terms of scrolling at least, it doesn't feel too slow or unresponsive. Same thing goes with pinch to zoom, also feels fast enough. So for things like reading back some quick articles on the web, it's actually an area where this tablet does very well. Again, if you have around 5 tabs or under open, it can still feel pretty fast in terms of loading them back and switching back and forth, but anything more than that, you'll notice that things will have to refresh and re-render a bit more commonly. It's not too surprising that you can install pretty much any program and app that you need from the Play Store, with around 52 gigabytes of free space left after the OS is installed, which is plentiful, I think, for a budget tablet. Although, again, you can further supplement that with your own SD card if you desire. Playing back lighter games is generally just fine on this particular device, surprisingly, despite the quad-core processor, but the Unisoc T310 seems to be pretty well optimized. Of course, if you're trying to do more graphically demanding games, such as PUBG or Asphalt, that's going to be a bit more of a tricky experience. You'll probably want to look for more powerful hardware if you are trying to consider really a true gaming tablet. But for what it is, again, casual gaming, more typical games, which are not quite as heavy, will still load here absolutely fine. Same thing goes with other apps, such as social media that you may want to try here, whether it's WhatsApp, Facebook, or Twitter. They can, of course, all run really without too much issues. And for the most part, the device remains comfortable to hold and use while gaming thanks to the soft touch rubber, overall lightweight frame, but doesn't really creak or cringe or feel too cheap either. It does get a little bit warm, I have to admit, at the top right-hand section of the device after extended usage and if you're doing more longer periods of gaming, but doesn't really thermal throttle, at least in my testing so far. Now, this particular form factor does also lend itself well enough, like I said, to things like simple comic reading and will perfectly suit those needs without any real problems. If you are doing a lot of text reading, then an e-ink display will probably still be your best bet, but definitely can serve those purposes if you're looking for it. Now, again, right now we do have a few games running in the background, along with some webtoons, web pages and notes apps, and it is saying that we have just under a gig of RAM left. But overall, this is actually doing a little better than expected, again, in terms of RAM management. Now, really, last but not least, I will mention that this company, HEADWOLF, makes other tablets as well. Notably, if you are willing to spend a little bit more, they have a HiPad 1, which is actually about twice the price, but that gets you a more modern design with slimmer bezels, a larger 10-inch display, and also faster speeds, and a metal build. So certainly this is more of their budget option and also more compact form factor, but not bad, I would say, for the, again, $120 price. More than anything, I would say it's the support for 4G LTE that is a little bit uncommon to find at this price range, and for the most part, getting you acceptable performance. Again, if you are willing to spend more, obviously you can get more powerful and even better looking devices, but this is kind of representative of what you can expect for an 8-inch tablet if you are looking at a budget device here in 2022. So you can check out more details if you are interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the affordable HEADWOLF FPad 1.